Alright guys, as some of you may know, I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. I've been searching all over Netflix to watch Dragon Ball episodes, but unfortunately Netflix here just doesn't have them. But you know which version of Netflix does? Netflix Japan. Some of you might be wondering, how on earth am I accessing Netflix Japan, right? Well, that's where NordVPN comes in. NordVPN is one of the top VPN services out there. It allows you to mask your location and browse securely, which is perfect for protecting your privacy. Plus, NordVPN can basically change your location to anywhere in the world with just a few clicks. So it's just as easy as that. That's how I'm able to access Netflix Japan and binge all of the Dragon Ball episodes that I can fathom. It's not just about watching international shows, however. NordVPN adds an extra layer of security basically as you're browsing, so your personal information stays safe and your online activity remains private. If you want to unlock more content and protect your privacy online, head over to nordvpn.com/Harariboy to get over 70% off a 2-year subscription plus 3 months free. And if you don't like it, you can cancel within 30 days and get a money back guarantee. It is worth the peace of mind and extra content you'll have access to. Thank you. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Harariboy Podcast. Today's episode, we're going to dive into some major developments, both in the finance and real estate, as well as even career topics for 2025. This year has gotten started off with a bang, many developments. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started.
Doge dividend checks that would be 20% back to taxpayers, 20% to pay down the debt. 60% is left. Who gets that?
When you achieve savings, you can either return it to taxpayers, you can return it to our debtors, or it can be cycled into next year's budget, and then it just lowers the overall baseline for next year. This is all going to be worked on through the reconciliation process with Congress that's going underway right now.
The first topic I want to go ahead and tackle is that of Doge. So in case some of you guys don't know what Doge is, Doge is the acronym for Department of Government Efficiency. This is the government agency or external agency that President Trump has initiated in order to pretty much audit our tax dollars to weed out the waste, fraud, and abuse. That being said, there was a lot of chatter and a lot of things that have been found out so far. Some of it might have a direct impact right now, some of it might not. But the biggest buzz that's coming around right now is the $5,000 dividend check supposedly going to go out once they find over $1 trillion in waste, fraud, and abuse. So if the idea is if they were able to save the American taxpayers money, I believe, 80% of it is going to go towards the deficit and 20% of that is going to go to the American people. And this is supposed to stimulate the economy and, make all of us happy, right? So essentially, I mean, if it works out that way, that is definitely going to hit your pocketbook, and that's definitely going to help out. This is one of the few times where, the who's in the White House actually has effects on you directly. Kind of similar to how we had those stimulus checks during the COVID time. It was an unforeseen circumstance. But again, I don't want you guys to rely on the government here. Now, if this does come, just look at it as a nice bonus. But if it doesn't come, it's not going to break your bank. Don't depend your life on this. So yeah, that being said, let's go ahead and react to this video here on what Doge is doing currently, and what Elon Musk has found. And yeah, we'll go ahead and react to it from there.
The White House breaking down how government savings will be used. Now, Doge is proposing that a percentage should go straight to Americans' pockets. And James Fishback is a Doge advisor. He came up with this idea. That escalated quickly, James. So here was Elon Musk yesterday talking to Hannity about this. Watch.
The overall goal is to try to get $1 trillion out of the deficit. And if the deficit is not brought under control, America will go bankrupt. The massive waste, fraud, and abuse that has been going on, which is leading to a $2 trillion a year deficit. That's what the president was handed on Jan 20th, a $2 trillion deficit. It's insane.
James, sorry, that was on Tuesday, not last night. But the sentiment continues. And a question based on even on what Stephen Miller was just explaining to Peter Doocy yesterday, the $55 billion in savings that Doge has found so far, has that money then been transferred back to the Treasury, or is it still at those agencies waiting some sort of assignment from either the president or actually from Congress?
Well, it's somewhere in the ether, Dana, but I think the more important question is that where is this money going to go when we end up saving it when Doge is all said and done? President Trump is off to a smashing start. What an incredible first month. Now it's time to look at the Doge savings, as our proposal calls out, and send 20% of that right back to the hardworking Americans who sent it to D.C. in the first place, Dana. They didn't send it to Washington, D.C. for it to be spent on a rocky Sesame Street or on a transgender opera in Colombia. They sent it for our roads, our bridges, our health care, and our education. That clearly has been lacking. So guess what? Taxpayers are overdue for restitution. They need a refund. And I'm proud that President Trump supports our proposal.
So would, in your idea, and maybe it's not fully fleshed out yet, but would the dividend checks go to people, like all taxpayers, or just to people making a certain amount of money?
It's a great question. So the plan, everyone can read it at mydogedividend.com. The plan is very simple, Dana. We think Doge will save $2 trillion in total. You take 20% of that, that's $400 billion. You divide that by the number of American households that will pay federal income tax this year. That's 79 million. That gets you $5,000 to every American tax-paying household next summer. It'll have President Trump's signature on it, because without him, without his leadership, this would not be possible.
Okay, the New York Times asked this, a Doge dividend. President Trump floated giving taxpayers a piece of any savings that Elon Musk's cost-cutting generates, which could reignite inflation. And I'm no AI expert, but I just checked on Grok. I just asked a question. Would giving these checks possibly lead to more inflation? And Grok says yes. What do you say?
I say no, and here's why, Dana. The first reason is that our economy is in much better shape the last time stimulus checks were indiscriminately sent out by President Biden. We had a massive labor shortage, supply chain dislocations, and they were sent out to everybody, not just taxpayers. The second reason is that this money is coming from direct savings. So remember, for every $5 that Doge saves, $1 goes back to hardworking taxpayers. And a poll from 2019 CNBC found that 70% of Americans would use this type of check to pay down debt, which is the opposite of inflationary. It's deflationary. So this is good policy. So it's good economics.
That's going to be my last question. Do you think that if somebody does ultimately get this check, if they have credit card debt, they should use that extra money that they found, the savings, the money they weren't expecting to get back, and pay down their own debt?
Absolutely. Just like DC should get its house in order.
So then should the government do the same?
The government should do the same, which is why this proposal calls for the rest of the money, the other 80%, to narrow the deficit, Dana, and to pay down our national debt. But American taxpayers who have worked hard, they need a break. They need restitution. The biggest part, Dana, though, is we incentivize them to report waste, fraud, and abuse, as President Trump said on Air Force One. Report waste, fraud, and abuse, Dana, because guess what? The more Doge saves, the bigger their Doge dividend check is.
Well, there you have it. So the idea, the math makes sense for sure, but it's just a matter of getting there. So you know, we'll stay tuned and see what that brings about. But essentially, just look at this as, you know, a reward to the taxpayers, right? It's definitely not going to be a guarantee of any sort. But, you know, while it's in the air, it's definitely worth talking about. It's definitely worth discussing, but don't heavily rely on it. A lot of critics, like you just heard right there, argue the plan is very unrealistic, and Congress may never pass it, and it could lead to inflation. That is a possibility as well. So, you know, again, it's just like the student loan payments. It initially was, you know, set to come. Then Congress got in the way of it. So this is another thing about politics that, you know, I myself included, don't like the fact that things get promised and then excuses get made after the fact. So that's why I personally don't even listen to half of the things that go on in Washington until it actually happens. And from there, just like you heard, the direct cash payments will go to about 79 million. Pretty much all taxpayers that are filing taxes from the sounds of it. So yeah, just let's see what this brings about, and let's see if it actually happens. But it's definitely a good idea. Definitely will help a lot of Americans. All right, so yeah, don't go to college for an art degree for that amount of money, please. Let's get to the next topic here. I wanted to hit on the DC housing market turmoil amid the federal layoffs. I did want to touch on the federal layoffs a little bit as well. Essentially, all the news is that we're trying, this is piggybacking off of the Doge topic from before. Our government is trying to downsize, from the waste, fraud, and abuse and all that. They're trying to sniff it out, and unfortunately, a part of that, they deemed a lot of federal employees had to be let go. Now, on the positive end, they were offered pretty good severance packages. However, a lot of them didn't take it first off, and they love their job, and a lot of these people are very essential to the government, and I guess and I hope they get rehired back. But essentially, this is affecting DC very heavy because a lot of people that did live there are now can't afford to live there anymore, and they're massively selling off their properties. At least that's how the story is going right now, and they're saying this could cause a housing crash. Let's look at a real estate expert I found online. This is my first time seeing video, but it looked pretty spot on. So we'll take a look at that. But let's see how much of this is actual fodder or actual, worries of concern.
The claim is that massive layoffs of federal government employees is causing a housing market crash in the Washington, D.C. metro. But the data paints a very different picture. When you look at the actual numbers, things look very, very normal. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a couple graphs up on the screen. This first one here is the Washington, D.C. metro specifically. Number of new listings hitting the market in the Washington, D.C. metro is up slightly compared to this time last year, but it is a very normal trend line, and it is still lower than the number of new listings that hit the market when you compare it to 2022, just a few short years ago. Now, this next graph for context is all metros across the country combined. So this is the overall United States housing market. So you can see the graphs look very, very similar. So there's really not much different going on in the Washington, D.C. housing market compared to other parts of the country and compared to prior years as well.
Yeah, so you've seen that. Essentially, the data points to this being normal. Essentially, nothing abnormal going on with the DC housing market that's not going on with the rest of the country. But a lot of people have stigmatized this. But as you can see right here, the data just doesn't show this. Essentially, the story is sellers are rushing to offload properties before the values sink further. And it's just a or short-term correction, and if this is going to lead to a further downsizing. First of all, if it's just affecting one market, it's very hard to gauge that on a national level because a lot of markets are crashing right now. A lot of little niche markets that went up. Austin went up during COVID, and now that's crashing. But for some reason, housing prices are, nationwide still pretty high. So, unless it happens to enough of these major cities, you're not going to see a crash overall, like we did in 2008. But I wouldn't hold my breath on it. If DC does become, one of those markets that crashes pretty heavy and housing does become affordable, by all means, if you have the means, snatch it up. Don't be afraid to move. DC is definitely a hot market, especially if you're able to get houses for steel over there. I'm pretty sure they will. History has shown that they do appreciate that market itself does appreciate pretty high. So you want to get in low when everything's down at a discount, so that later on you can sell pretty high. But yeah, that's really it when it comes to the DC housing market. I don't see the need to harp on it too much right now. I do wish those federal workers well, because that's definitely not a good situation to be in. But essentially, the housing market right now is just too early to tell how that's going to be affected by these layoffs. All right. That being said, there's a wild story. Now, this happened a while ago, and that's fine. It's still relevant today, but I feel like this will definitely give a lot of you guys hope. I mean, honestly speaking, like being rich is not far out of reach for majority of everybody. You just put in the work, and no matter what your situation is, you can definitely climb out of it and become successful. I say all that to say, I think a couple of years ago, Dave Ramsey got a call from a 29-year-old, essentially discussing his problem. His problem was that he was $1 million in debt, and he's trying to figure out how he can climb out of it. So, a couple of interesting things Dave Ramsey had suggested. I'll definitely go over it here, but let's hear it from him first.
So I live in D.C. I just recently got married about 3 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my husband and I have really decided we need to be really focused on the same page about our finances. We actually have our first class of financial peace this evening.
Oh, cool.
But together we have probably just under $1 million in debt, and we want to know how to get debt-free without filing bankruptcy.
Okay. How much of that is a mortgage?
The mortgage, about $210,000.
So you have $600,000 in what?
$335,000 is about in student loans. We both have advanced degrees, and then a lot. The rest is really credit cards and personal loans.
So you have $300,000 of credit cards and personal loans?
We have about $335,000 student loans, and then about $136,000 in credit cards, $44,000 personal loans, and $35,000 car loans.
Okay. How old are you all?
I'm 29.
Okay. So what in the world?
So, yeah.
I mean, are you both on this, or is this just one of you that's completely lost your mind?
Well, I have the majority of the student loans, and he has the majority of the credit cards. My credit card debt is not great.
Okay,
it's
so
about
why does he at 29 years old run up $100,000 in credit card debt?
Well, he's 32, but I think it's one of those things where just making really poor financial decisions, thinking be able to pay it down as you go, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
okay, so you both have advanced degrees. What are your degrees in?
We do. So I have a degree, both of our advanced degrees. No, he has an MBA, and I have an advanced degree in policy. I work in the government, and we actually both do now at this point, actually.
Okay, so your household income is what?
Our household income is about $230,000.
Okay, all right. Is there recognition on both of your parts how absurd this situation is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
Right.
So I think we're both a bit scared and want to do anything we can to avoid.
Okay, great. Then I'm on your team. I can skip that step. Okay, good. Okay, well, you're scared, and you should be. You're disgusted, and you should be.
We are.
You're in the early stages of being sick and tired, and you should be. So here's the thing. You guys have been living at across the board, from your education choices to your car purchases to your whatever. You've been living at about 10x where you're going to get to live for the next 3 years.
Okay. Yep, that's true.
So I'm getting ready to destroy your life as you know it. Because your lifestyle is considerably above your extremely good income. And has been for a period of time. And so you've gotten used to spending like you're in Congress.
Right.
This is going to be very emotional for y'all. And you're going to have to look at it through that lens and through a spiritual lens, or you're not going to make it. You're going to have to not care what anyone thinks, including each other, because you're not going to spend any money on anything ever for the next 3 years. Like, you've been let's pretend you're making $210, and I know you just got married, but let's pretend you'd been doing this as a couple as you went along. You've been making $210, spending $310. I'm getting ready to put you on 30.
Okay.
You're not going to see the inside of a restaurant unless it's your extra job, where you're waiting on some of the people you work with during the day.
Okay.
This is how humbling this is going to be.
Quite.
It's going to crush a lot of crap in your soul that caused you to do this. So the bad news is it's going to be really rough. The good news is it's going to be great for you guys relationally, spiritually, and financially. But you're not going to make the financial unless you make the relational and the spiritual move, because I know you guys because I was you guys. This is exactly what I did. It's exactly what I did in my 20s. I bought and purchased a lifestyle that was 5 to 10x what I had.
Yeah.
And it was all because of crap inside of me that caused me to do that.
Right.
And all of that has to be destroyed to fix it.
Absolutely.
Is this making any sense, or is this too brutal?
No, it's making a lot of sense, and it's brutal.
I'm warning you what's coming, okay? This is not a math problem. The math problem is the symptom. The problem is what's going on inside of you guys. So the great news is you're very smart people. And if you will apply that intellect to solving this problem as if it were a policy problem or a business problem, you can solve the problem. But the lens by which the problem will be solved is through spiritual contentment. Godliness with contentment is great gain. Translation, you're going to pull up at a stoplight driving a piece of crap car next to people that have an income a fourth of yours with a nicer car than yours.
Right.
And you're not going to care. That's going to be the cool part.
Okay.
You're going to reach the point you don't care what other people think. And that might be a fair journey for you or him. I don't know which one it is, but some of you guys you've been purchasing a lot of stuff for a lot of reasons that are going to change.
Yep. They have to.
Yeah, they have to, because you're on a suicide mission right now.
Oh.
I mean,
his credit cards are actually bundled with one of those debt relief programs where we put a pot of money with them, and then they negotiate on your behalf. So we're not even paying on the bulk $124,000 of the credit cards right now. Yeah,
you're going to probably have to pull out of that. I don't know how quickly, but the problem with those people is they don't follow through, and they administratively are really, really, really pitiful. They're incompetent. And so you're going to find the concept of what they pitched you is not completely bad, but you're going to find their follow through it will make your bones chill. So you're probably going to pull back out of those. But then we're just going to list these debts smallest to largest. What's the home worth?
What's the home life, you said?
No, what is your home worth?
Oh, my home worth. Oh, I think that, let's see, according to Zillow, the home is worth about $300,000.
Okay, so you have a little bit of equity there, but not enough. Not enough to save you. So I always sell the home as the last resort unless it's the problem, and it's not the problem here.
Okay.
Ratio-wise, it's nothing compared to this other stuff. I mean, you have $330,000 in student loan debt, $200,000 on your house.
Right.
It's not the problem, and the credit cards are almost as much as a stinking house. So it's not the problem. So I don't think we got to sell it. You probably may need to sell a car. Not going to rush to do that. The big thing is just this shock to the system of your all's lifestyle. where you go from really living what we call in Tennessee high on the hog to you're going to be living beans and rice, rice and beans. Your friends are going to think you've lost your mind, and your mother's going to think you need counseling.
Yeah, and we live with my parents now. After we got married, they offered us to stay with them to help us, with transitioning to new life, which has definitely been helpful. Renting out the
who's
condo.
living in their house?
So I put my condo up for rent when I got engaged because I knew I wanted to save money for the wedding before we got married. So I had a renter in there the last year, actually looking for another renter. Her lease ends in a month.
Oh, we'll just sell it then.
Yeah, so you seen that? You heard that. Essentially this person is pretty much $1 million in debt, right? Including their mortgage. Dave Ramsey just gave them an out in just 3 years. I mean, a lot of people suffer for years upon years. I've seen people that literally just pay their minimum payments on their credit cards each month. It takes them about 10 years and to pay it off. And it's a very long, imagine all that interest you're putting in. Going this route that Dave Ramsey just prescribed, living off of 30,000 when they're making around 200 is definitely a good way to go, because if they sacrifice for that short amount of time, they're aggressively attacking this debt and they're fighting the interest at the same time, and they're cutting down their monthly expenses at the end of the day. One of the things that these people that go through this plan, they think oh, for all 3 years I have to suffer. No, really, in the first year, you should see some relief, because you're attacking your debt so aggressively that a lot of your monthly payments will fall off. And then that's why the debt snowball is so important, because when you pay off your smallest debt to last, smallest debt to the biggest debt, you'll build up that momentum. So a lot of Dave Ramsey's plans are momentum based, and that's really what finance is. It's all about momentum. Once you get going, it's very hard to stop. You'll just keep increasing. But the hardest part is at the beginning to get started. And you definitely have to be disciplined enough to say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. $1 million in debt is not a joke. And I want to climb out of it, and I want to be prosperous. I'm pretty sure if this person follows verbatimly what Dave Ramsey just told them, they'll be not only debt free in 3 years, but hopefully have some savings to start, and they can just start to invest that money. All that money they're making, over 200K, like you saw, they can literally start investing and maxing out their 401Ks, their Roth IRAs, and buy some mutual funds, things like that, and really start to build their wealth. I don't know why they wouldn't be millionaires in 10 to 15 years, to be honest. But yeah, that's my take on it. That's how you go from $1 million in debt to becoming a millionaire, becoming wealthy. I don't recommend going $1 million in debt, but luckily they did it for the right reasons. That's still a lot of money, but they got a good education out of it, and is providing them with a good income. So at the very least, there is that.
But let's talk about AI. We're seeing all these different AI powered tools, right? You can now look at automated valuations. You can do virtual tours through AI. You can build websites. There's chatbots being used more than ever now. So I want to ask you, how do you see AI impacting our industry, the real estate industry?
I think it's just going to enhance everything. The real estate industry is the real estate industry, whether you're buying a property or selling a property or building a property, right? The fundamentals will always remain the same. I think AI is basically going to provide assistance, right? It's just technology at the end of the day. Like you mentioned, social media, emails, instead of faxes, DocuSign, instead of wet signatures. It's just going to make the industry more efficient.
Correct.
I don't see it, when people say, will it replace the real estate agents? I can't see how a robot or, effectively a Google search on steroids can replace a realtor, right? I think that buyers have been more savvy as far as the market goes since Zillow came along, right? I think back in the day, buyers would probably solely rely on what their realtor told them and the information packets, etc. in the last, I mean, since we've been doing it, in the last 20 years or at least 10 years, most buyers are actually saying, I want to see this property. What do you think about that? And we give our feedback. So again, I cannot in a million years, I wouldn't, even knowing what I know, rely on AI to sell me a house or take me through the process. The contracts are changing. I want someone to explain things to me. There's so many variables in real estate that AI or any platform is not going to know about, but AI is a great tool to assist realtors in assisting their clients.
I love that. And I agree with everything you just said. I think if you use AI correctly, you can work smarter, not harder. It allows us to be more efficient in the way that we run our business. It allows us to be 5 steps ahead in terms of what we're doing with time. It's truly something that if you're not using right now, you should really start to familiarize yourself, because we're in a world where everything is changing. The world's changing right in front of our eyes, as it did with the tech industry. And the tech industry changed our lives. Now it's AI. And so my advice is, if you're not familiar with it, or if you are slightly older in your demographic and you've been doing this for 20, 30, 40 years, and you're like, I'm not even going to try it. I'm the paper person. I don't even want to mess with that. Just trust us and try it. It will allow you to work more efficiently and smarter, not harder.
100%. Yeah, so just as I have been reiterating over and over again, just like the Industrial Revolution, where factory jobs became a lot easier and a lot less manual labor, AI is a tool, just like he's saying right here. Essentially, why would real estate agents be replaced this fast anyways, with a developing tool like this? So essentially, the artificial intelligence industry is rapidly transforming the real estate as a whole. AI-powered tools such as automations for home valuations, property searches, and even negotiations have been enhanced. I mean, that just sounds like a whole bunch of paperwork and time that the real estate agent doesn't have to devote themselves to anymore. Let's keep going here. Oh, and then, essentially, the necessity of agents have been called into question, and now a lot of real estate agents are essentially starting to use these tools themselves. So that being said, I mean, if you can spend less time doing the legal work and things like that. I'm not a real estate agent myself, so I'm not sure what all goes in on the back end. I mean, I did work with one, so I when I was trying to purchase a house, so I kind of see what goes on there. But essentially what I know is that AI is a friendly tool for them, and they use it on their day-to-day now, and it's just ever developing. I mean, if you can generate your leads from it, and not have to make not to have to find your own leads, and then save time on the paperwork and even the home valuations, no more guesswork, things like that. Right now it's just making life easier for real estate agents. So definitely use that, learn it first, like he said. You're going to be left behind as an agent if you don't learn these tools. So I think that's a scare there. A lot of people not wanting to learn, but this is an ever-changing economy, and you're constantly having to learn, especially if you're involved in any type of technology, which it looks like technology is going to take over many industries. So you might as well learn it and don't remain obsolete, and you should be fine in this AI revolution. All right, we're nearing the end here. I do want to tackle 2 more topics here. And the first one I want to go over is the current stock market sell-offs. Is now the best time to essentially invest? So yeah, let's take a look at this video right now. apparently the tariffs and everything, the economic uncertainty that has been happening has been causing mass sell-offs on the market. And you guys kind of know my stance. It's kind of similar to Dave Ramsey's stance of why jump off the roller coaster when it's down? Why not buy things at a discount rather than when they're high? So when the stock markets are down, that's definitely the time to buy. Let's go ahead and take a look at this, and let's go ahead and react from there about this market sell-off that everybody's worrying about.
Well, it's a couple things, but I'd say what really stands out to us is that the market has eluded extended periods of weakness because investors are bearish at the highs at a time when there's record cash on the sidelines. So to us, this is a market that is very skeptical of these new highs. That bearishness and concerns about tariffs means there's a wall of worry. So I think this is actually a very positive setup for stocks.
So you're not concerned about some of the data we've gotten? I mean, that University of Michigan consumer sentiment reading this morning in particular seems to have spooked investors, given the fact that it cited broad declines across age, income, wealth groups. You also said that big spike in year-ahead inflation expectations. That was unchanged, but the 5-year expectations moved higher, too. At what point does that start to manifest into something more meaningful in terms of a slowdown here in growth?
Well, these inflation expectation surveys matter to the Fed because they are concerned about whether or not consumers are actually raising their inflation expectations, and that would, in fact, be bad. But we have to keep in mind the UMich surveys do seem to be polluted by political affiliation. When you break down respondents by Democratic responses, they've gone from seeing inflation under 2% before the election to over 5% today. Republican respondents have gone from 4% to basically zero. In fact, if you look at the distribution of responses for those Democratic respondents, almost 7% think inflation is currently at 25%. So I think that there is a lot of pollution in that data, and I think it's probably pretty typical what happens when there is a change in administration, but I hope the Fed is aware of that political dynamic.
So, Tom, if I recall, in Q4 last year, you were warning about market turbulence, and we've been right now at around S&P 6,000. We're at the level where we were a month ago, a month before that, a month before that in late November. Should we also expect turbulence at these levels at this point, given that the macro narrative and the political landscape is still unclear?
It certainly seems like it. I mean, I think investors can cite a lot of things top of mind why short term they're expecting the turbulence. You know, we're coming off 2 back-to-back 20% years. We know there's significant uncertainty about tariffs. In our latest client survey, 63% of our clients, and that's over almost 2,000 respondents, said tariffs or deportations is the biggest risk. That's up from 54% last month. But these are not things that have necessarily long-term negative effects. In fact, things like the number of Fed cuts is actually back towards 2. And I think there's a possibility the Fed may actually make cuts sooner. I think one thing the market is being complacent on is thinking the Fed's on hold. But if this turbulence causes hiring to slow, I actually think the Fed could actually be making cuts a lot sooner, which would be positive for stocks.
Okay, so tell me about these granny shots that you've got, you know, part of your investing strategy, some specific stocks, especially since growthy stocks seem to be especially vulnerable on days like today. And if we're going to get more volatility, it sounds like we might get more days like today.
Yeah, that's possible. But investors really want to own stocks that actually have structural advantages. And that's best evidenced by revenue growth, margin expansion, earnings growth, and reasonable prices. So the reason growth stocks will still outperform is that in a period like this, if we have macro uncertainty, they're going to be names with some visibility. It's not pleasant to own a growth stock today, but you know, we know the lesson of 2025 is that these pullbacks have not been deep and investors have been buying these dips. So I don't think today is any different. In fact, it's no different than the DeepSeek panic or the tariff day panic or the CPI panic. So, I think this is going to be a buying opportunity.
Yeah, so essentially you've seen that, you heard that. It's a lot of panic going on in the stock market because of uncertainty. But so yeah, essentially what's going on, the stock market is experiencing significant sell-offs, causing a panic among investors. But history shows that downturns can be, the prime buying opportunities, like I just mentioned. And you know, the question is, are certain sectors or stocks presenting strong value? They just indicated right now that, growth stocks are definitely something to look out for, but in terms of, risk and how can you take advantage of the dip? First of all, I will not recommend any of you guys, especially in a market like this, to invest all of your eggs in one basket. What do I mean by that? I mean, do not buy individual stocks with your hard-earned money and just, bet big on it. I know it's very tempting, especially with the stocks you just displayed and stuff like that. They might be on the low right now, but some of them might not recover. So what can you do to weather that kind of storm? Buy groups of these stocks. So right now they are on a discount, like I said. So you can stand to gain pretty substantially and buy more shares than before because of this dip. So buy ETFs. Majority of your cash should go to mutual funds. The S&P 500 is probably a good one. Any tech ones is good, but if you want to go like market specific, do like tech, healthcare, anything else just to diversify your portfolio a little bit in the groups of stocks that you're investing in. Let's say you just bought tech stocks, ETFs and mutual funds. If you did that and let's say the whole tech sector is going down because something happened with AI or whatever the case might be, you are, going to lose your money essentially. So it's always good to stay diversified. Definitely look into international markets as well, as at the very most, 25% of your portfolio should be in that. In case the US markets aren't doing good, you still have the international to kind of carry you through those times as well. So if you diversify yourself well enough, you can pretty much withstand any economic downturn and not have to panic sell like a lot of these investors have to. So last but not least, I want to explore some emerging career trends. I'm sure you guys heard of the latest tech driven layoffs within the past week. This has happened as companies are trying to invest more in AI tools, and they're still trying to figure out what roles they need to be centered around and things like that. Pretty sad stuff, but I want to focus on the Indian market right now. The reason why I want to do that is because there is a notable Indian company that's very well known for VFX, and movie production, art design, things like that. I believe they're called Technicolor. So a lot of times these American companies, what they will do, they would outsource to India and to this company. So a lot of the big name movies you've been watching, or a lot of the big name studios, they use studios like these because they're virtually inexpensive for the company compared to hiring actually skilled skilled designers here in America. A lot of the legwork and heavy lifting is done outsourced outside of the country. That being said, one of the notable companies in India, Technicolor, has made massive layoffs. They just laid off 10,000 artists. I mean, they're getting paid by these big American companies, and these jobs really don't even pay that much. But overnight, the jobs were gone, and this is because of the heavy push of AI. Let's take a look at this video. They're going to go ahead and detail it a little bit better, and then we'll go.
The sudden collapse of Technicolor creative studios has sent shockwaves across the global VFX and animation industry. More than 10,000 artists have lost their jobs overnight, with over 2,000 employees in India now facing financial distress. Their salaries remain unpaid, and the company has offered no clear communication or support. Despite the massive layoffs, Technicolor India has remained silent. Many employees are struggling to pay rent and loans, with February salaries still pending. The uncertainty has left them in deep distress, and some are even at the risk of self-harm due to financial strain. In an exclusive conversation with News 9 Live, a former employee revealed the devastating impact of this abrupt shutdown. He described it as an act of unforgivable betrayal, blaming Technicolor India's leadership for abandoning its workers. While employees are left unpaid and homeless, senior executives remain unreachable. A leaked video from an internal meeting confirms the company's financial distress. In the clip, Technicolor India's country head admitted that funds from the headquarters had not arrived. While he assured employees that HR was reviewing salary disbursements, he gave no clear timeline, adding to the frustration and fear among affected workers. The closure of Technicolor Creative Studios, along with its subsidiaries MPC, The Mill, and Micros Animation, will have far-reaching consequences. Hollywood, Bollywood, and the gaming industry now face major production delays as studios scramble to find alternative VFX vendors. Thousands of skilled artists are now competing for limited jobs, raising concerns about wage cuts and a potential talent exodus from the industry. Beyond job losses, this collapse has shaken investor confidence in the VFX sector, raising doubts about the financial stability of major studios. It could also accelerate a shift towards project-based hiring and cloud-based VFX production.
The situation today is that Technicolor India is clearly financially and operationally not moving forward. And we reached a stage where, unfortunately, we've been unable to function as an organization. So I want to express the gravity of the situation and the distress that it has caused all of us. For some of us, it's probably a first time, but certain things are out of control, and I'm going to explain and to talk about that, and we just need to accept that. The India leadership team was brought to this stage of finality alongside all of you. We were not privy to the situation that we will receive mail out of the blue saying that Paris has gone into receivership or liquidation or whatever it is. And I myself have been in touch with many of our global leaders, many of the people that run our brands in other parts of the world, and they were equally unaware of the suddenness of this particular event, which came to them as it did to us without advance notice or warning.
Yeah, so you've seen that right there. How do you survive this? I mean, if it seems like AI is affecting certain job markets, especially designers, right? A lot of these designers, have liberal arts degrees. Not a lot of them, but some of them, and they, their jobs were already scarce as it started. But now that you're adding AI in the mix, it just added a whole new mess into it. But how can people in this field kind of navigate through? Well, upskill. A lot of times, I know a lot of designers, and they essentially told me that they are constantly having to learn new software. They are constantly having to update their software knowledge. And just like they have to constantly do that, they have to update their knowledge about AI. So this is, again, a tool that's currently, being utilized in the wrong ways, like in places like India, like you just heard, where they're trying to automate away the jobs. But if you ever run into a situation like that, and let's say AI pretty well, I mean, if the company is doing it, why don't you? Right? This is why I'm saying you can never go wrong with learning AI. It's not an enemy, it is a tool, because at the end of the day, robots don't need money, but you do. So definitely use it to your advantage. If you do end up in a situation, may God forbid that you are ever in a situation like that, but create your own studio and start to, instead of hiring workers, automate as much to AI as possible. And the only way you can do that is if you learn the tool yourself. So that's another way to weather a storm like this. Right now, this is a very pocketed trend. Again, I singled out this company in India, but we can look at the rest of the world and see how that's going to eventually affect America, right? Especially if this is a company that America outsources to for a lot of their big projects. So we'll keep an eye on this, learn AI as much as possible so that you can become as self-sustaining as possible when the time does arise. That's it for today's episode, guys. I hope you guys got a lot of benefit out of it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, my Spotify, my Apple Podcasts, and where I'll be posting these episodes in full. I have not yet transitioned to posting full episodes on YouTube yet, but keep an eye on that in the coming weeks. There will be some changes in that landscape. But yeah, I'm excited to keep posting and informing you guys and bettering you guys in the long run. So that being said, see you guys next time, and look forward to speaking to you guys more. Bye. So do you have a minute to connect? Let's Minect. That's right, guys. I'm officially on Minect now. You guys can go ahead and book me. I will be offering financial as well as career coaching based off of the Dave Ramsey principles, of course. So yeah, feel free to contact me, connect with me on Minect, and I look forward to speaking with each and every single one of you.